Good evening, all. I'm Councilwoman Joanne Ryan. Welcome to the Committee on Finance regular meeting, Monday, June 21, 2021. It is 5:42 p.m. Madam Clerk, could you kindly read the roll?
Chairwoman Ryan.
Present.
Councilman Nazucci.
Here.
Councilwoman Castillo.
Present.
Councilwoman Anthony.
Present.
Councilman Taylor.
Here.
We have 5 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any special guests with us? Let the record reflect that Deputy Majority Leader Mary Kay Harris has joined us. Okay, folks. Councilman Correa is with us as well. Thank you. Anybody else? And our wonderful solicitor, Kenny Cheverini, is with us this evening. Okay, without further ado, why don't we go ahead? I'd like to entertain a motion to waive the reading, the budget articles 1 through 4, and continue. May I have that motion?
Taking a motion.
Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes. May I entertain a motion, please, to continue on items 5 through 7?
Taking a motion.
Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, item 8. Madam Clerk, could you kindly read item 8 into the record?
An ordinance adopting the American Rescue Plan Act grant budget for the period of April 29, 2021 through September 30th, 2021.
All right, who is here on this matter to discuss this tonight? We have Larry, we have Director Silveria. Why don't, Madam Clerk, could you swear them in, please?
Can everybody please raise your right hand? You swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Lawrence Francini, Chief Financial Officer, City of Providence.
And Sarah Silveria, Finance Director, City of Providence.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Before we begin, I'd like to receive a substitution that has been provided to us by the administration. I believe I need a motion to receive that substitution. May I have a motion to receive a substitution for item 8 provided to us today by the administration?
Making a motion.
Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilwoman Anthony. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, so we have received a substitution on this item, and I'd like to ask, I don't know, Chief or Director Silveria, who would like to explain. I think tonight what we're going to do is talk about the general fund revenue, how you arrived at that amount. There's a number of other items. First of all, has everybody on the committee received the substitution? Itemizing?
No.
No?
Nope.
Packages, did they go out to the committee?
Nope.
Okay. Can we put this up on the screen? Let's try to get this up on the screen, folks. Oh, yeah. Opera? That's it.
What's the ordinance one? Sub A.
Sub A,
Sub A.
621, right there.
It goes back into the mailbox.
slide down a minute just to make sure that's the right one. Okay. Okay, folks, we have
May I
we
just
have a
ask a quick question? So sorry. Is it on the Confluence? It is on the Confluence website, correct? I see,
Councilwoman Anthony.
yes.
Councilwoman Anthony, the document is it up on Confluence?
Everything that was-
All of the documents that have been submitted are on Confluence.
Thank you. I see it.
Okay. Let's get it up so that we can talk about it, though.
So what's our first sub-A, 621 today is?
Gonna call you Eagle Eye.
No.
Yeah, do that one, hit that one. No, that'll blow it away, that one. No? See?
I gotta share my screen and I can't.
There you go. I unify. No, all windows. There it is. Wonderful, thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have Sherry with us this evening, and we have Donna as well, and our fantastic auditor, Gina Costa, is with us too. Okay, so without further ado, let's slide down to the piece of this that we're going to discuss. As I mentioned earlier, tonight's discussion is solely about the revenue and how it was arrived at. Could please slide down, continue down. We want to get to the 19.4, there it is, right there. 19,457,352 FY 21 revenue recovery funding to the general. So who would like to speak to this, please?
So, Madam Chair, good evening again. Members of the committee. Madam Chair, good evening. I just wanted to concur with you that the item that's under discussion this evening is the amount associated with general fund, and it's associated with the revenue component of the budget. Ms. Silveria has prepared what amounts to a fiscal note and explanation, and with the committee's permission, I'd like to defer to her, and she could walk us through the description of the changes this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Chair, Finance has also provided a narrative and kind of a fiscal analysis on this revenue recovery piece of the ARP ordinance. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read that into the record.
Okay, hold on one second. Clerk, did you get that attachment as well? Set up on?
Everything's on Confluence.
Everything is on Confluence. Okay. Let's enter this as an exhibit to item 8. Does my committee have this document? It's a fiscal note provided, opera ordinance, revenue loss FY 2022. Does everyone have it? Committee members? Councilwoman Anthony, you have your hand up, but you're muted. I can't hear you.
So sorry,
okay.
I'm right here. So I'm sorry, I'm just checking. So I've got the sub A, and then what is this called?
It's a opera ordinance revenue loss FY 2021 from the Finance Department.
I don't see it. So I've got,
2022.
yeah, I have the sub A, right? And then we have the APRA ordinance program background, and then the APRA finance submission. Is that which one of those is it?
It would be the finance submission.
Thank you. Perfect.
So does everybody on the committee have what is being talked about? Can you, Sherry, I hate to ask you to put it up, but can please my committee confirm they have the document that Director Silveria is speaking to?
I have it.
I have it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Director Silveria, we're going to leave this here because we had a little trouble getting that, but my committee has the document that you're going to speak to, as well as it is on Confluence. And it is titled, what is the title of this? Should anyone else be looking for it right now?
It's ARPA finance submission.
Okay. Fair enough. Please continue.
Okay, the City of Providence is requesting approval to recognize $19,407,352 in revenue lost from its approved allocation of the American Rescue Plan funds for the fiscal 22 budget year. This is a critical piece of the legislation that enables local governments to provide continued balanced budgets and prevents us having to make drastic cuts to services and staff while our economy begins to recover. Per U.S. Department of Treasury's interim final rule, local governments are permitted to use ARP funds to mitigate general revenue losses because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The interim rule has provided guidance as how to revenue losses are calculated. Using fiscal year 2019 actual revenues as a baseline, local governments are permitted to assume annual revenue growth at the higher of 4.1% or the average annual revenue growth over the 3 fiscal years prior to the COVID-19 health emergency. Below in my report is an analysis of the interim final rules application to the City of Providence's operating budget. And I can explain this chart a little for everyone's benefit. In the first section of the chart, I have annual budgets from 2012 through 2022, along with the percentage of increase annually, budget year over budget year. If you take the 10-year presented here, the average budget growth from 2012 to 2022 is 2.37% per year. And that includes the 22 proposed budget with the 19.4 million in ARP funds. The ARP revenue cap calculated for fiscal 20, where we are basing it off of fiscal 19 actual revenues and adding the 4.1%, would allow for a budget of $17,123,422, and then rolling that forward through the next few years, the capacity that we would reach at 2022 would be $560,396,827 allowed under ARPA. Our fiscal year 22 budget is $539,937,743, which is well below what our cap would be. And again, just noting that our average revenue growth over 10 years is 2.37%, inclusive of that ARPA funding in 22. The stabilization of municipal revenues is one of the most significant attributes of the ARP legislation and was expected to provide cities and towns with the ability to maintain annual operating budgets while the national and local economy steadily recovers to pre-pandemic levels. Should the city's projected revenues loss result in a more favorable recovery, there will be less dependence on ARP funds in the city's general fund. While we are using ARP funds, we are not allowed to have a surplus in a given year. So as our revenues recover, we may not have to pull as much from ARP. It'll be determined as we go through the year and see how our economy is recovering. And I'm happy to pause here for questions of me or Chief Mancini.
Thank you. Councilwoman Anthony has her hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this. So the ARPA funds are available for 3 years through 22.
They are. So
okay.
To 23, and then it has to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. And then you have additional time to spend it, but it wouldn't be needed to, you would need to have it obligated by the December 31st, 2024.
Okay, and then you're saying that, so you use the higher of the two figures because it's 2.7 versus 4.1, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then finally, I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. So we might not use those figures because we can't run a surplus. We're just, those revenues are available if we need them, is what you're saying, I think.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Lombardi. I almost called you Councilman Lombardi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have some concerns, maybe I have concerns about 4 years from now. What's the $19,457,352? I'm not talking about ARPA. I'm talking about what lost revenue are we going to have?
So with this legislation, we don't have to identify a specific line items. We are looking at the budget in a broad way, and so this is the amount of what we need to close our budget gap to continue operating our city budget without having to make any cuts to services or to cut staffing or things like that.
Well, you're adding to it as well, right?
We have added some program dollars for diversion programming, and there have been some other adds, yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, so let me ask you this. Like I said, forget about ARPA. What's the $19,457,352? What funds are we going to recover? Because when we lose ARPA, we're going to have a hole in the budget. And I wouldn't think you want to kick the can down the road to the next administration with a $19 million hole in the budget.
Right, and so when we first presented the original ARPA, we had $6 million in revenue loss, and that was basing off of our projected budget for 22 versus the 2019. So right off the bat, from 2019 to the 22 budget, we saw a diminishment in $6 million, and that was because we didn't know that we could have this inflation figure attached to the budget, so we were just budgeting a baseline 2019 actual. So we are pretty confident we'll get back to at least the 2019 baseline and see some revenue growth as well.
Okay, I guess I'm not making myself clear, Madam Chair, if I may continue. Forget about ARPA. ARPA doesn't exist. Why are you not putting a hole in the budget when you use a number of $19,457,352? You're plugging a hole. What's the hole you're plugging that is going to disappear 3 years from now when there's no more ARPA? I mean,
I would also argue that these funds are available and are for this purpose. We aren't taking the maximum allowed. We are operating our budget as responsibly as we can. We haven't added huge programming dollars to this budget, and rather than starting to make drastic budget cuts now when we don't have to, we're hoping that we will be able to find that replacement revenue over the next 3 years.
Okay, so you agree with me that you're putting a $19 million hole in the budget that you're going to have to find in 3 years?
I also believe that revenues will grow between now and then. We'll get back to pre-pandemic, all of the entertainment and travel and tourism revenues that we see diminish. Parking, meals and beverage, hotel tax. We'll have tax revals. We'll have TSAs maturing through the schedule.
So you're saying that equals $19,457,352?
I can't say that for certain.
Right. So, and then let me ask you, I saw the other graph, I just looked it up, and I saw that the average rate is 2.37 increase every year, but you're using 5.68, if I'm reading it correctly. So I know that you're saying that this is a responsible budget. I have to tell you that without identifying the funds that you're going to cut, it's not a responsible budget. At 2.37, why are you using 5.68?
I'm saying that 2.37, if I take the average budget increase over 10 years is 2.37. And yes, some years will be 1.92 and this one is 5.3 because we essentially we skipped a whole year with the COVID pandemic. of revenue growth. So if you take all 10 years and you average out the average annual increase, it's 2.37.
Okay, so I would ask the chairwoman if she could ask you to provide a list, not for opera purposes, but for budget purposes, of the amount of income you expect to recover from this line item. Because in the future, ultimately, someone's going to be responsible for it. And all I want to know is, what is that number and how much is it? In how, again, you're saying, well, we don't want to make drastic cuts now. I agree with you, except that let's understand what the drastic cuts will be in 3 years, or let's understand maybe we shouldn't do every program that comes down the pike, or align it to ARPA like you have on the rest of these line items. Don't put it in the general fund. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. I would like to ask for that itemization. Director Silveria, if you could provide that, please. I too was concerned about the 5.68% growth presented. And I'm concerned about why are we even talking about an average growth from 2012 to 2022 at 2.37? Aren't we supposed to be using FY 2019 as a baseline? Why are we looking back to 2012?
I just wanted to. So I agree. The 5.68. If you look at that alone, it looks very shocking. But also in 2021, we had a lot of savings opportunities that we took advantage of. We saved a significant amount of dollars in work-share. We had, limited hiring that resulted in some significant savings. So we had close to $6 million in just savings from work-share program and attrition throughout the year. And we had savings for financing debt, and we had savings from funds on deposit from debt that was maturing. And so some of that increase was because we had such one-time savings that we were able to achieve during the pandemic. So I wanted to look at, even though it says 5.6 this year, if you average all 10 years, it would be more like a 2.37% increase year over year.
All right. Councilwoman Anthony, I saw your hand up. Do you have a question? You're muted, Councilwoman. You're muted, Councilwoman Anthony.
Sorry, I have too many screens open.
That's okay. I wasn't sure you were talking to us.
No, I'm talking to you. So just going back to that very question, in your written portion here on the submission, it says that you said local governments are permitted to assume annual revenue growth at the higher of 4.1 or the average annual growth over the 3 fiscal years prior to the public health emergency. And you did 10, so I'm just wondering, why is that what it is? 10 years? Is that why you've averaged 10 years and not done the 3 fiscal years prior to the COVID crisis?
No, I just wanted to take a 10-year average of what it looked like, what our annual budgets looked like year over year, and show how it, while shocking that the 5.68% is there for fiscal 22, when you kind of smooth it out over the last 10 years, it's not a scary figure.
Okay.
It does sway though from 2019 to 2022. Much higher than the 0.37, that's all. I think that's what we're all kind of focused in on. I see the auditor. Does that answer your question, Councilwoman Anthony?
Yes, thank you.
Are you happy with that?
Yep.
I see on, Madam Auditor, do you have a question?
Yes, maybe not a question, but a comment. So I took a different approach to this. I looked at our fiscal year 21 budget, and then I looked at all of our major increases, the pension contribution of $4.2 million, debt service of $10.4 million, the school payment increase of $4.8, and salary of $7.5. And That comes to 537 million, it's close. But we've had some revenue increases. We've had natural growth in taxes of 7.5 million. A school debt contribution from the state was down to, is 1.5 million. TSA's increased 850,000. Inspections and standards is actually up $2 million. Their revenue was not affected by COVID. The red light cameras is an additional 500,000, which is 500,000 more than 2019 numbers. So I feel that the number for that $19 million is inflated, that we have a $14.5 million difference. So there's $5 million, I think, that's in that budget somehow that really doesn't need to be there. I just think the smaller the number we take from ARPA, the safer we are 4 years from now, or in 2024. I don't know what else is in there that can be moved out of there or some savings. And that 5.68 is really a large number. I'm just worried about the future.
Point well taken. Director Silverio or Chief Mancini, do you have any thoughts on that? So the question is why the 19? Why isn't it, based on the auditor's analysis, something more? It appears to be inflated by about 5 million. What are your thoughts?
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Madam Auditor, and Mr. Treasurer and Chief, I value the work of Ms. Silveria, and I think it's intended to guide the budget process to determine what the revenue replacement would be at a maximum amount, all things considered, given in light of the fact that even the auditor testified, and I would agree, we had reductions in the 2020 budget that were offset by stricter spending, savings through work share, and the recovery of those revenues wasn't in that year, pre-pandemic, was expected to either equal the prior year or grow from that particular budget. So Ms. Silveria's work was measured over a decade to say what was the likelihood of increase year over year. What we've seen every year, and I'm proud to say, is the natural expansion of the tax roll despite no tax rate change in at least 6 years. And that continues. In fact, tax collections are the most solid revenue source in the city's budget, while it's also the city's largest revenue source. So I do think, while there may be some differences, I think what Ms. Silveria had said is the most important thing. We won't really know. We won't really know how much of that 19 million we will actually use until we can measure revenues through the course of the year. And as those revenues have been restored through the local and national economy, based on perhaps the society getting back to full immunization, or at least herd immunity, and businesses reopen, we're already seeing tremendous changes in meals and beverage tax, as reported by the state. That seems to make sense to me because despite restaurant closures, they continue to operate on takeout, curbside, et cetera, we know that the areas of the revenue that have been significantly reduced are certainly hotel and hospitality in that regard. And then the attributed revenue associated with event revenue, whether it be the Civic Center, the Convention Center, the theaters, the attendance to parking. They'll come back, but we just don't know how deep they'll come back and over what time. It is not our intention to be dependent on OP funds. It's our intention to balance budgets and find the ways to rebuild those revenues. I just think, Madam Chair, members of the committee, that the uncertainty of that, not grave, it's just that the uncertainty of that is yet to be determined, and I think it'll be determined more so over the course of the budget year. And we're happy to submit any additional information that supports that, but at the moment, it was a calculation predicated on the rules and regulations and the interpretation of what's known as the interim final rule. And I think Ms. Silveria did a good job attempting to arrive at some base to work from. So I submit that testimony to the committee.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Madam Auditor, you have a follow-up on that?
I don't doubt Sarah's good work. It's not personal. Let me ask you this one question. if we did not have ARPA money, what would we have to do to fill our gap?
So if we didn't have ARPA money, we would likely have to cut programming. We're not at a position because of ARP to have to make those choices right now. I think as ARP goes away and we look at where we are revenue-wise in the future, then we'll have to, but right now we don't have to. And I would hate to see some of these really great programs that the city does for youth and for people in the city be cut now and when we don't need to.
You wouldn't raise taxes? That would not be an option to make sure we still had our programs?
That's not for my
No,
decision.
With a gap like that, I think that's what we're facing in 2024. And I think it's going to be known by then we're going to have to. Thank you. No more comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardi?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on Mr. Mancini, I think that you can project it out. I think that you can take the 2019, and even if you go to 100%, so that fines and fees will be back at 100%, hotel tax will be back at 100%, just to give us an idea about what we're actually looking at. And there are, just for an example, we don't have to cut programs for kids or anything like that because we can put that in the opera funds. That's not even on the table. But there are a series of raises in this budget. There's a series of a whole bunch of stuff added in. And so I'm saying if before this, I'd like the committee to know before they vote on the budget, what's the hole down the road that's going to be in the budget? So is it worth it to provide all these raises or is it not? That's all. And I think you can calculate it in. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Okay, who else on this topic? Councilman Anthony.
Yes, I guess I'd like to ask, so we use the 4.1%. Why would we not use the 2.57, which is our average growth rate? Why wouldn't we use that figure instead for our recovery projections? Does that make sense? So something that we already know to be true, 2.57% is the average over 10 years. So why would we not use that instead of 4.1? If I'm making any sense.
So I did, you are. I didn't use 4.1%. 4.1% would have resulted in a much larger budget, and we would have been at 560 million if I used the 4.1. So I looked at it as trying to maintain city services, maintain our employees, and the programming that the city has provided over the last several years, and making sure that we didn't have to cut any of that in this budget. So I didn't take it all the way to the 4.1%. I think if you look at the average increase from 2020 to 2022, it's 3%, 3.08%.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All set? Anyone else? Committee members, council members, any questions on this topic? Okay, we're going to continue this. We're going to continue this matter, and I think we're ready to, we'll have additional people come in on Thursday, right? Okay, so we're going to have folks on. Councilwoman, you have your hand up, Councilwoman Anthony? Is that an old hand?
Old
Okay.
hand.
So we're going to have folks come in on Thursday and talk about the substitution that we accepted today. You have it before you on the screen, but if you just take time to scroll through it to understand where that $19.5 million in ARPA funding is intended to go. So, please take time to digest that, and we'll call in everybody on Thursday to discuss how they intend on spending it. I see Councilman Correa's hand is up.
Yes, Madam Chair.
just quickly, if the clerk's office can prepare some hard copies of this so that other council members can have it. I'm having a hard time trying to bring it up on the computer here, so if we can just get some hard copies.
The clerks will, Madam Clerk, you'll be able to do that? Yes, Councilman, we'll make sure we get that out. It's an important topic. Thank you for pointing that out.
And I will pick mine up tomorrow personally.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
All right. Motion to continue item 8. Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilwoman Anthony. All in favor, aye. Motion passes. Okay. All right. Item 9, could the clerk kindly read that into the record?
Resolution authorizing the transfer of certain funds for debt service expenditures from the capital asset fund to the general fund.
Okay. We're going to continue this matter. May I have a motion to continue item 9?
Making a motion.
Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by
Second motion.
Councilwoman Anthony and Narducci. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, item 9 is continued. And now, Madam Clerk, could you kindly read item 10 into the record?
An ordinance approving the capital plan for the fiscal year 2022 through 2026. The following has been invited by Director of Public Property, Sabrina Ferrara, Operating Officer, Senior Advisor to the Mayor, Gina Rodriguez Brick, Affairs Manager, Culture and Tourism, Craig Hoffman, Deputy Chief Engineer, DPW, Brian Burns, Deputy Superintendent, Department of Parks, Martina, Director of Special Projects, Department of Planning and Development.
Okay. Whoever is here this evening to testify on this matter, we're going to have the clerks. Madam Clerk, could you please kindly swear them in?
Raise your right hand. You swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, could you state your name for the record?
Sabrina
State your
Slar's
name.
hand.
Thank you.
Emo Roberts.
Leo Parada, Director of Public Works.
Robert Azar, Planning and Development.
Gina Rodriguez-Strix, Agriculture Tourism.
Brian Burns, Deputy Superintendent, Parks Department.
Okay, is that it? Okay. And Mr. Azar, you are representing Planning and Development, Bonnie, Martina?
That's correct. Director Nickerson and Associate Director Haggerty are on vacation this week.
Okay. All right. Well, Sabrina, welcome to the Finance Committee. We've been awaiting your arrival, so thank you for joining us this evening.
Of course, happy to.
Okay, so let's make sure the committee has your documents first. Committee members, do you have the capital improvement documents that were submitted? Today, I guess the package went out. You have, I see thumbs up. Please tell me you all have your documents.
I do.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I had trouble getting mine, that's why I'm asking. Okay, first I'd like to ask Sabrina if you could summarize what's going on with the CIP, and then we can drill down by department. But please provide an overview of where we're at. Obviously, everybody is aware that the CIP has been out there for a number of years. Some of the CIP, the initial ones, are all spent. I'm concerned to make sure that they've been spent as intended, and also where we are now and what is outstanding. So take it away, Sabrina.
Of course, and thank you, Chairwoman. So there are 3 documents that were submitted to committee. Actually, I apologize. One of them is for another item, so I'll only address 2 of the documents in this moment. One of the documents we have labeled as Report Master, which speaks to the progress specifically on items that were passed the last time the council
Okay,
gave
let's go
approval on the
slow,
capital
please.
improvement plan.
Let's go slow. So say that again, the capital, what is it? The master? What are you referring to?
Sure. The document is called CIP 2020 to 2024 Report Master.
I can't find it. Can I have it in front of me, please? I've got the master lease here. Oh, thank you. I have it now.
Great, thank you. All right, so the first page of that is an overall summary page that goes into the amounts that were approved by the council the last time that the CIP was approved by your body. And in that provides overall totals for the amounts that were approved. Below the initial table is then a secondary table that outlines the amount that's been spent so far out of fiscal 20 and 21 specifically, to give an idea of progress and where we are in the overall. So balance to be spent overall across the 4 departments that are charged with project management, noting that arts, culture, and tourism projects are funded via another department, is $75,137,650.79. The pages following that outline specifically the progress on the projects. So for instance, on the DPW page, each one of the activity pieces, certain pieces of contracts that have been passed by a Board of Contract and Supply, amounts spent therein are outlined and itemized. They're also under a column called status and activity. The most recent update on that DEMO collected in collaboration with each one of the project managers for their respective departments. And in this meeting, we have somebody for each one of the departments that can speak to those projects if the council would like an explanation about anything in specific. Separate from that document, there is another document that is the updated capital improvement plan that we submitted with the fiscal 22 pending budget for your consideration. Given the amount of time, or rather I should say the timing by which we received funding for those first 2 years of the capital improvement plan, and some of the impact of COVID on our team, we did roll forward the earliest 2 years into fiscal 22 and 23 for completion. There were some items that were also added to departments, getting their consultation on what they needed for out years. There is no bonding planned in this moment for those out years, but recognizing that the capital improvement plan exists, of course, to identify the needs of the departments, it is reflective of the needs that the departments gave feedback on. I'll pause there for any comments or whichever direction you would like to go in, Chairwoman.
I'd like to ask the $8 million for the OPM. I think it's in a public property bucket. What's the status of that? Have we hired someone? What are we doing there?
Debo, I know that you spoke to several of the teams, if you'd like to take that question.
Sure, ma'am. Yes, madam, that money is there to be spread out throughout all of the departments that's listed here today. It was originally put into the public properties bucket, if you will, but we have since collaborated and decided that based on the percentage of dollars for each department, that money will be kind of split up to represent each of those dollar amounts. So what we want to do is make sure that each department has the funds available to draw from for project management, and everyone here on this call is aware of that.
So are we hiring a project manager or not?
It's going to be separate. Each department is going to request or procure a project manager or firm to represent their department. That would be the best approach in my opinion, madam.
Why would we do that? And Sabrina, why are you not responding to this question? It's an $8 million amount. It was in the budget. It was intended to be a person that would provide oversight to the project, not have, you know, multiple people doing the same thing in some desperate way. And the intention was that person would also be responsible for reporting to the council.
I could add my commentary to this as well.
What is the status of hiring an OPM to oversight the entire CIP project? Has that changed?
The feedback that we received from departments is that some of their projects require very specialized experience. So for example, the Parks Department has very specific projects. The request was that we provide them with the opportunity to hire somebody that had very specific expertise to address the very specific nuances of what they had to execute on. So it was after we had received feedback from those departments that we decided to move in this direction.
What is the duties of the OPM, the oversight duties? What is their responsibility?
An owner's project manager should be checking on the status of any of the projects, doing site visits, any punch lists for closing things out, making sure that they are done appropriately. They should also be supporting a lot of the financing that happens in departments, or rather the finance tracking, I should say, in collaboration with their fiscal agent. That information should be fed upwards to the capital improvement manager, and there should be collaboration on broad strategy from those people.
My understanding is the person who's an OPM has broad oversight responsibility. By breaking it up into each department, you're losing continuity, and I think you're wasting time, energy, and effort. I think it's you may say that the departments want to have specialists, but they are the specialists. This is an oversight person to make sure the projects are done as planned, on time. Yeah, I don't think that was what was intended. Councilwoman Anthony, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm just going to add to this. Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate what you have to say, but I think what's frustrating is that before Jordan left, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a long meeting about what, hiring this person. And she had to do a lot of sales to us because, she spoke at length about, how it would save us money and how it made sense to have one company do this. And I can't believe, that we're doing, why wasn't that figured out before Jordan presented to us before she left? I just, this is extraordinarily frustrating. It feels like there is a disconnect and there is no continuity at all. I mean, Jordan really went to the mat to try to get it to convince us that was the way to go. And now we are looking at separate ones for separate departments. It just doesn't make any sense. And if that is the case, why couldn't we have figured out that before Jordan pitched us on the one owner's rep? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. Why couldn't the departments have told you before then that they needed someone specialized? It's just very dysfunctional. It feels very dysfunctional to me and a little frustrating.
It's extremely dysfunctional to me, and we did spend quite a deal of time in this in committee, and that's why we've been asking Sabrina to come to this meeting and talk to us about what was going on with the CIP. But I see Mr. Lombardi, you have your hand up.
Was somebody going to address Councilwoman Anthony's question?
I can. I did want to also take a moment to clarify. I do know that Jordan had specifically advocated for an owner's project manager or a person in very similar role for the school capital plan. I do want to make sure that there's clarity that there's a difference between the school capital plan project manager and the general capital improvement plan project manager.
Okay, thank you. So she was just advocating, I'm sorry, just to follow up, Madam Chair. So she was advocating just on the school.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Anthony.
Just so I'm clear, that she was just advocating on the school repairs. Is that what you're saying? Just to have the one owner's rep?
Correct. And that particular one, and I do remember those very lengthy conversations. You're absolutely right. They were very long conversations. That is in particular, very critical that that is one person, that is one firm overseeing all of it, particularly when you consider the complexities of how populations of children and students move through our city, how the phasing of the work has to happen, and the preparation of stage 1 and stage 2 submissions to the Rhode Island Department of Education so that we can maintain our return on that funding as we process those. So those being two separate plans, they do have two very different approaches.
My apologies. Thank you for the clarification.
Of course.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Narducci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also a little confused. I wasn't part of that original discussion because I wasn't on the Finance Committee yet. But it appears to me that the directors of the department sitting in front of me have structured big projects in the past, and for us to waste money on individual project managers for each department, especially when we got somebody like Demo Roberts overseeing a lot of the projects himself. And I was under the impression that the project manager was going to be hired to work with Demo to oversee all the department monies moving forward. Again, I mean, it's not the first time the city's wasted money on crazy things, but and if you're going to have, what is it, 4 or 5, 6 different project managers, Sabrina?
There would be 4.
4 different project managers. Companies are obviously coming in with a project manager to do this for each department. Is $8 million enough? Or are we going to be hit down the road with another 4 or 5 million because we didn't have enough to pay all these different project managers or companies coming in? Again, I think Chairwoman, I think you might have said it right earlier. We already got the players in place. One general manager for the whole team would be a great thing. Just like in any sport, you have one general manager and you have your players doing what they need to do. I'll stop at that. I don't think we need 4 different project managers. I think one project manager overseeing all the projects would be more than enough with the backing that we have of our department heads. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Narducci. And to affirm what you just said, the Council Committee on Finance intended the OPM to be an oversight authority of all of the spending for the CIP, to make sure the projects went along as planned, things were timely, and most importantly, they were going to provide reporting to the council on projects. That has been something that we have been struggling with since Borg left. Mr. Borg did a wonderful job. He came up with a great reporting for us. We knew what projects were in queue, whether they were on plan, over budget. If there were additional dollars left over, we knew about it. We didn't hear about it after when they were spent on something that wasn't intended by the council. That OPM is an important person, and it's one person that provides the oversight authority for. We don't want to have to go to 4 different people. We already have to go to every single department right now. What the plan was and what our intention was is that there was one oversight authority. We commented, as a matter of fact, as I recall, on the fact that Gil Bain, who did work for all of the schools, they basically had one project manager, and that was what was appealing to us. See, there's a lot of text going on. Mr. Lombardi, you've had your hand up, and I think I ignored you because we went back to Councilwoman Anthony. Do you have something a burning desire to speak right now?
I do, Madam Chairwoman, and I did yield the floor to Councilwoman Anthony.
You did, and I forgot to go back to you. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I think that you know that I've always made statements to the effect that if an ordinance changes, that it has to come back to this committee for a change. So, for example, I don't know exactly if they have $8 million in for an OPM, that unilaterally they can go out and just say, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to do something else with that money. I believe that these were passed as ordinances, and I would hold them to it. I also know that I'll tell you that I'm disappointed that when Colonel Borg was here, we worked out a lot of I'm going to say kind of the miscellaneous money where, this project was going on, this project was going on. And, we had a lot of things in place that disappeared when he disappeared, unfortunately. And that since then, and, Demo's doing a great job. This is not a shot at Demo in any way. That Demo always tries to help, but he doesn't know what happened in the past. And that there is repurposed money out there that I know has not come back before this committee. I reach out a number of times on behalf of council people on projects that should have been done or should be getting done, and it just seems that it's not respected, I guess is the best way to say it. But I'm gonna argue that any changes to any ordinance needs to come back before the council, that unilaterally the administration can't act. And if I see, unfortunately, I don't believe I have jurisdiction on this bond. It was signed, I believe, without me, if this is the right one. I refuse to sign it. So I think, is this the one that the PPBA is managing? So I can't even, I can tell you right now, if this was OPM and you thought you were going to hire an OPM and it came under my jurisdiction, it would go back to the council. Thank you.
Right. Okay, yep, thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Really good points. You just affirmed, I think, what the council body is, the finance committee members are talking about today. I see Deputy Majority Leader Harris is with us and has her hand up. Councilwoman, do you have a question?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Chairwoman, for allowing me to speak. Yes, I am very, very concerned over how David Lopes have been, things have been allocated, funding that have been allocated at David Lopes. The projects have not been done. I mean, it's very stressful to have to look at these things and go back and forth. At one period of time, I had a reserve fund of $65,000 and had put it in the pool, only to be told later on that that money didn't even matter, that it was just wasted. I mean, there's so many other things at that recreation center that needs to be done that I don't want to keep seeing funding just get thrown in there and nothing getting done. Honestly, I am very, very frustrated, aggravated, and concerned about that roof. That funding was spent on the roof and now the building is still leaking. I was told that that project was done. Back and forth downstairs, it's been impossible for communication. No matter who tries to communicate from my office, there is no communication, and that's bad. And I was sharing that with Mr. Robertson today when he visited, and I realized that the pool work that's getting done now is under his leadership. When I was told that that was going to be done and that the young folks would be able to have a pool before the weather changed completely. And right now we're iffy, nothing to do with Mr. Roberts. I want to thank him for just taking this really serious and making sure that the groundwork that have been done so far has been done. But this don't make any sense. I've been in office for 6 years and it's back and forth with the same old stuff. I just wanted to put that out there. I'm just making a comment, and I want to say that I'm listening. I think Councilwoman, wait a minute, I'm losing myself here. Oh my goodness, our councilwoman, that's your only councilwoman on your committee. No, you got two. Well, she was right about her point about how we, the things that we don't receive from the administration downstairs. So I'm just so aggravated. There's lots and lots of stuff I want to go on and on about because I've been back and forth with Jim about this already. So, I'm just gonna finish listening. I hope we can come to something different, come up with a resolve. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. So I would just like to say,
I have a comment when you have a chance.
absolutely, there's a couple of council hands up that we're going to get to, but I just want to interject at this point. Mr. Lombardi brought up the point that when Director Borg was in his position here, and not to mention, there's been a whole litany of folks that have gone through as public property director, and that is challenging in and of itself. We've had Stipe, we've had Bucco, we've had Mahoney, we've had Monty, and now we have Demo, who, everyone loves Demo, but, he's been thrown into this, and the challenge that exists and has existed since Director Borg has left, we do not have the reporting that we worked out with him, and it was laborious, and I have to say that we settled and we finally got to a point that we were comfortable as a council body with the information that Director Borg provided to us. He put together a report. We labored over the design, the content of information that was there. Have you seen that report, Ms. Director Hand?
Yes, I believe that you're referring to the quad charts that he designed.
Yes, that's exactly it. Are you employing them? Are you requiring that the administration utilize those reports, or have they no longer been utilized?
We are reactivating those. They're very labor intensive for all of the project managers to do, adding photos to them and all the various other pieces for the utility of making sure that we got an efficient, more let's say, condensed report to the council today. It's in a spreadsheet form, but Demo and I have been in conversations about moving back to that, trying to make it a less of a labor intensive process as well for the project managers, respecting how much they have on their plate as well.
And that is one of the reasons we had gone down this road quite a bit. That's one of the reasons why we requested an OPM to oversight that reporting piece. It's a critical function. Our job as counselors is an oversight authority over the administration. Spending funds that the city borrows is a really important deal. It's very important. And we take our responsibilities very seriously. Your reporting to us is a critical component of our ability to provide oversight. And right now, I have a bundle of documents from different departments in different formats, in telling me, statuses of individual jobs. That doesn't help council people. We want the comprehensive reports that we labored over. And as a matter of fact, there's a council ordinance that specifies the reporting, which is exactly what we had requested and worked out with Director Borg. So I am asking you if you can reactivate those reports rather quickly and engage the OPM as requested by this body. That's what's in the ordinance. That's what our expectations are. And I'm a little taken aback at the fact that we're having this conversation right now. Councilman Currier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I just want to echo the same thing of all my colleagues. I mean, I think it's very important that we have one project manager to oversee all these projects. And this is no disrespect to Demo, but I've got several projects that have gone on in the neighborhood and have taken place, and we still have major issues with the quality of work that was done. I can just quickly, off the top of my head, the Mount Pleasant Fire Station, we still have major issues there. I mean, that project was over budget, ran beyond the time frame that it was supposed to take place. In the basement of that building still floods out during rainstorms. There's other punch list of stuff that needs to be completed in that building, and we get nowhere on that. The Jocelyn Recreation Center, we put a brand new roof on that building. The community room floods out during heavy rain. Spoken to the administration, spoken with everybody. There's still been any corrective action taken on that roof. The downspouts that were installed are falling off the building. I mean, there's a whole bunch of projects that, if this is just going on here in Ward 6, I mean, I can imagine how many other issues that there are with all these other projects going on. So, I mean, I would strongly recommend that we get somebody to oversee these projects right away. And, you know, Kyle in our office has been great. Our chief of staff, Jim Lombardi, has been great, you know, but we get a lot of answers, spoken with Demo, sat in a meeting with both Demo and Sabrina, you know, gone down to the rec center, still leaking the roof. Nobody's never gone there to look at it yet. I don't understand what's going on. I mean, the warranties on these things are going to run out and we're going to get stuck footing the bill to fix the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I have Councilwoman Castillo, you've been very patient. Please.
Thank you, Chair. You know, that's just the same thing my colleagues say. I have an Elmo Community Center. We allocated money, 2 years, the project. You know, they come here, they show how they can do it, blah, 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 blah. I'm done. Because we allocated the money for do the project. They came here to promise to us, and we promised to the community, and so what? Nothing happened. So I believe, you know, like, we need to pay attention. What are we doing? Because that's not fair for us. Because we put our work to the community, they do the project. And end of the day, you know, nothing happened and everything come to us like we are a liar. So be more serious, please.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Gunn-Calls?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for everyone's remarks. I just want to echo everyone's sentiments here. One of my chief concerns is that the schedule has changed substantially. Something that was slated for fiscal year 2022 initially, for example, was pushed to fiscal year 2025. I just want to hear a bit more about their methodology, how it was decided, what projects would be prioritized and what projects would be pushed off. Selfishly, you know, there's a lot of stuff in my ward that's been pushed off. I'm not sure if that's true for everyone else, but who makes that decision, and how has the pandemic impacted that work, and what was the methodology in terms of choosing which projects would be prioritized and which projects would be pushed off?
I can speak specifically to the first 2 years that were in the last approved capital improvement plan, Councilman. Those were made to stay the 2 most current years that we're currently working on, because those were our current projects, of course, and we'd want to keep those going. Those are priority for us. They're currently funded. The rest of the projects, and if any timelines were changed, they were changed under the advisement and recommendation of the departments, depending on what made sense for sequencing. But I would say that if there's a specific project that you're concerned about, the feedback is always welcome. If there's a specific one that you're looking at, that you're wondering what the methodology on that was, happy to discuss. But it's always been with the recommendation and partnership of the departments. That's not something that's made at a higher level alone or in a silo.
Got it. I guess I can connect offline about that, but is that something that other folks have dealt with? This is for my council colleagues.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem. That's not really being communicated to us why those things are happening and what the impetus behind some of those decisions are. And if we're not being communicated with about those you know, those choices, then I think that's quite problematic. It leaves us all in the dark. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. You've gotten right to the point. That's why we're looking for an OPM, one person that can oversight these projects, keep them on time, keep them running. Councilman Narducci, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Just, I know her name was mentioned earlier, Jordan Day. At least when Jordan was with us, we got feedback. Jordan would let us know where we stand with the fundings moving forward, why things had to be put off. Again, I know it's been said numerous times, we do not get that anymore with this administration. Also, what really punches me in the stomach right now, okay, and I'm using that term because I want to try to be nice, is the conversation I'm hearing from my colleagues and myself of buildings that house our kids, buildings that feed the homeless, buildings that have soup pantries in them, that feed people that have nowhere else to go to be fed. And we have issues. We have leaky roofs, fire stations, the people that save our lives, basements building up with water, flooding with water, as you heard from Councilman Currier. Areas of our firehouses that people that you would never want to use the bathroom. And these guys live there, they live there. It's their house. That irks me even more. And yet you want to have 5 different project managers. No, one project manager to oversee all the projects. And again, it just irks me that this is happening in buildings that, where even being told the roof was done, as you heard from, I think it was Councilman Currier and Councilwoman Harris, roofs were fixed, all of a sudden they're leaking. And then we go back and now the next thing we're going to hear is, well, we got to redo the roof because the warranty expired. It's just ridiculous. I can't believe we're having this kind of a conversation. And I mean this out of respect to the committee members, because like I said, it just baffles me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Auditor?
Sorry. Just a couple of comments. From 2017 to 2020, the City Council approved $183.5 million in capital improvement projects for the city. 115 is the most recent one that's up for discussion right now. The first half, there was no project manager. You had the Director of Public Property running around trying to oversee all the projects. So let me ask you this. If you have this set up with each department with their own project manager, hypothetically, Parks Department has a project, it's a $500,000 project, it's overspent by $50,000. He has no money. Do you stop the project, or do you go to another director and say, do you have $50,000 from a project that you haven't spent? That makes absolutely no sense. There's no coordination of efforts between the departments. These directors all work hard and they're executing these projects, and you need someone to relieve them of the reporting requirement. And all of this was supposed to be put online and public.
That's another point. That's exactly correct.
$183 million. And they gave up 8.5 rather than invest it in the city capital improvement. They said, let's do this. Let's put the 8.5 to a project manager so we can see these reports and be transparent. None of that has happened. How would you handle a project being overspent? What would you do?
If I may, I can talk a little bit about the structure of support. So yes, when Director Borg was here, he had a dual role. He was the capital improvement manager and the public property director. We did find that that was a voluminous amount of work for one person. He did a spectacular job at it, but the amount of work was almost inhuman. And to his credit, I think he did it with as much grace as he could have. Stepping away from that model, the decision was the director of public property should be one person and another FTE should be the CIP program manager. So that person is the person who's meant to look at the whole thing strategically from a higher level. That is technically the role that Demo Roberts occupies right now. He has been so gracious as to be acting director as well at the moment, and he has been submitted for consideration to council for that as well. But that role is intended to be backfilled because I do recognize that there does need to be somebody at a higher level coordinating those things, because you cannot have the individual project managers having to coordinate amongst themselves when they are trying to run their projects. That is definitely a fair point.
Still need someone to coordinate the financial aspect of the project.
I agree with you. One of the things that is in the public property budget right now is a fiscal agent specific to the capital improvement plan that is meant to coordinate and work with the capital improvement manager. And the reason why that was submitted as an FTE rather than specific to just the CIP is that that sort of financial support is also genuinely needed for the school capital plan, because that is also very voluminous.
Why would you burden the general fund with something that could be paid from the capital improvement funds, from the bond funds?
We could, but the broad coordination of the two capital improvement plans we thought really should be one person that had a bird's eye view on both ends, rather than having them isolated in one capital plan versus the other.
We agree there's a need for broad oversight. That's the role of the OPM. That's why we pushed for that. So I agree with you on that. Who else? Committee members, any other questions? Timo Roberts, you had your hand up. I was allowing council members to ask their questions. Is there any comments that you would like to make?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would just say respectfully, the reason I feel this approach would work is that different department has different needs. So you may have a project manager that is more experienced in vertical construction versus flat construction. So some of the dollar amounts that we have are really big. You may have a project that's about $30 million that really needs someone that's there day-to-day, on-site, being hands-on to be that project manager. So I feel that if you have one project manager doing a $30 million project, potentially you may get lost in all of these other smaller projects. So respectfully, I would say, please consider looking at each department's projects, because there are some large projects that needs really the attention for that particular project. That's all I have to say on that, Madam.
Okay, so I think we've had a good discussion. I think the common thread here is that we have no confidence that the work that we intended to be done is getting done on time, on schedule, at the dollars that we approved. I see Councilwoman Anthony, but just let me finish this thought. We have gone down the road. We've spent an awful lot of time talking about a single person that's required or necessary to oversight all of the projects as an OPM. We talked at length in finance committees past about not being on time, not being on schedule. We wanted certain reporting prescribed. We worked with the administration to come up with the reporting, and the fact that we're not getting it is disappointing. It's called a quad chart. A little hard on the R there. But that's what the council is requesting to see, and we think that we need it put together rather quickly. You've got an ordinance before us asking for us to approve more CIP dollars. We want to see that report in a format and fashion that we've labored over. I think it will help all of us. But moreover, it is our expectation that there is an OPM, one OPM, that oversights this project globally, the fiscal components to it, that it's tied to the CIP dollars, and that we're spending CIP dollars appropriately. That's my thoughts. I see Councilwoman Anthony has her hand up again. What would you like, Councilwoman?
I'd just like to say even the reports that are presented for tonight's meeting are practically indecipherable. So, I mean, I'm not sure how we're supposed to make heads or tails out of what's been presented tonight. So, I mean.
Thank you, Councilwoman Anthony, because that's how I started this meeting, with a package of reports that I could not make hide nor hair of, nor use them to direct the committee through an analysis of what work is being done. Yeah. So I'm crying foul. I really am. Councilman Narducci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I again feel like I got this one page here that I don't know how they expect me to read it, even with my glasses on.
I think that's the masterpiece.
Yeah, that is, and I think what we need moving forward, and I know I think it's kind of what you touched on, Madam Chair, was what I would like to see is I would like to see a list of all the projects from each department before the next finance meeting. All the upcoming projects for this year and next year. Because if there's any questions or any doubts on funding, we shouldn't be questioning the funding in the middle of a project. Like all of a sudden, like the point was brought up about, you know, $50 million, $50,000 short on a project. We shouldn't even have to have those conversations. If a project is budgeted, I'd like to see what it is, what we're doing moving forward. And again, get materials that I can read. You know, I don't know, like I said, you guys might all, you know, be key on this fine print stuff, but I can't read it. It does no good for me. And I guess that would be all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Councilman Narducci, you are absolutely correct. I started this meeting and I was fumbling with the many papers that were presented to me. I could not lead this committee through a discussion of the CIP dollars that have been spent, where we're at with each project. That was what was intended. I didn't intend us to spend the entire time talking about not hiring an OPM, which was the will of this committee, as well as the council. Disappointed to see that we've made no progress on that. I'm also disappointed. We've been asking for reporting. We've solved that problem. I thought we were moving on from that. We want to see the reports that we've agreed to, you call it a quad chart. To me, it was the CIP reporting that we all agreed to. So I'd like you to work on that, and I'd like to be able to see it. I'm not sure if you can pull it together by Thursday, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be very difficult for the council to consider CIP spending without an evaluation that we can understand and in a format that makes sense. And also makes sense to the general public that is also cued in or trying to look at these reports electronically. It makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. I'm going to continue this matter, motion to continue till the council gets the information in a format that is digestible and as requested. Motion to continue,
Motion
please.
made, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Councilman Narducci, seconded by Councilwoman Castillo and Anthony, I think. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read the next item into the record.
Discussion relative to the master lease. The following invited Dino Robbins, Acting Director of Public Property, Sabrina Solaris-Hand, Chief Operating Officer, and advisor to the mayor.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have Demo Roberts and we have Sabrina Solaris-Hand. They're already sworn in. We have before us, it is a green highlighted document. It is a matrix, 2 pages. Do we need to enter this, Madam Clerk, as an exhibit? Motion to add the 2-page green highlighted matrix that is presented to us on documenting the master lease as Exhibit 11A. Is that okay? Or no? Yes, I do. 23. Sorry, the clerk has directed us. It's Exhibit 23. Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilman Anthony. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. The exhibit is accepted. Okay. Please, you have your hand up, Councilman Anthony?
I'm so sorry. If I could have raised my hand. I'm just going to say that whatever this document is, it is not at all available on Confluence. So it did not reproduce at all.
I think it would have been on last meeting. It's there.
No.
It's the
I'm
20
saying it is there, but when you click on it,
you can't.
no. I mean, if somebody can correct me, but I'm clicking on it and you can't even, it doesn't come across at all. So it's not at all available online and or to me.
The clerk is checking now. Do you have it online in Concourse?
Yes, it is on. Tina put it online.
Okay, I'm being told it is on there.
All right.
And it's up before us now. So the clerks have indicated it's been uploaded. And it's before us now so that we can talk about it. Committee members, does everybody have this in their hands? Can you confirm, committee members, everybody has it? If you don't have it, let me know.
Yeah, that's the one I said I couldn't read.
I'm having trouble too. It's very small. We're going to do the best we can to try to get through this, folks. So please, Sabrina, take us through this.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So this is an updated matrix on the status of all items that were approved in the 2020 master lease. The green highlights, as you call out, are items that are anticipated expenses for the utility of making sure that we are representing commitments that have been made for various needs, but that have not necessarily been drawn down yet at this point. So wanting to illustrate items that are in movement, so that we're not representing an available figure at the very bottom of the second page that wouldn't be genuine. There are statuses throughout under status notes as to what has been procured and what the amount is. And we've also represented the approved allocation as well as the actual awarded amount so that we have a budgeted to an actual figure on there as well. The overall summary is that this was approved for $20 million overall. The amount that is remaining to encumber when we consider everything that is also already committed, if you will, is $836,688.14.
Okay, so in plain language, everything on this document except what is in green has been already spent or committed or encumbered. Is that correct?
Correct, Chairwoman.
So what is in green? What's going on with that again, please? Highlighted in green.
They are in various states of process, but have not been committed yet. So as an example, one of the items that is called out at the top of the first page is City Hall interior improvements. There's still a balance there to be utilized of $97,400. That is for conference room work. It was always intended for conference room work. Given the climate with COVID and how holding public meetings such as this has evolved, that money had not yet been spent on conference rooms. And so we're going to be utilizing that to update some spaces, such as the conference room at 444, to ensure that we're able to have productive public meetings in that space going forward.
Okay. So bottom line, remaining to encumber is this 836,688, correct? 836.
Correct, Chairwoman.
Okay. What are you doing with that? What is the
There have
plan
been
for
various
that?
requests from departments. One in particular that comes top of mind is that the city is currently under consent decree for stormwater. And so the Department of Public Works as well as Parks have worked very hard on that. And there are some very much needed pieces of equipment to support those needs in particular that come at a very high ticket amount. And so among the requests that I have received have included some of that equipment.
Okay. So when you determine how you want to spend, or when you think you know how you want to spend that money, the council needs to be apprised as to what your plans are.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, you can send that to the auditor.
Okay, will
All
do.
right, any questions from the committee on the master lease expenditures to date? Is everybody okay with it? Committee members, any questions, concerns? No one has any questions. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilman.
thank you.
Councilman Nanducci.
Thank you. So anything in the white, like the Parks vehicles and public work vehicles, those are all being purchased this year?
Correct. And I would still anticipate, absolutely by the end of the next fiscal year, we still have a goal of wrapping up the rest of this.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Can you talk about you're very welcome, Councilman Nanducci. Could you talk about the security upgrades to the rec centers? I know that that has been a hot topic, and I'm surprised to see it as a TBD on here. I thought that that was a priority for the council.
Yes, a security analysis was conducted at all the recreation center sites to make sure that we had our hands wrapped around exactly where the cameras needed to be so that they would be the most effective, what angle they should be pointing at, where they could connect various information such as that. That's been handed over to IT in this moment, and the director there is collaborating with our security vendor that also handles the security for our other critical buildings such as City Hall, to look at how we can appropriately utilize that information for install.
Okay, so you've done the analytics. Does the cost come up to the amount anticipated?
We actually expect that there's some value engineering we could do there, but we feel very comfortable with the amount of money that is left in that line to accomplish it.
So what is the end goal of this project?
The end goal is to install security cameras in every single rec center and to allow for Director Stevens to have either some manner in which he can view those security cameras remotely, have the data stored, and be able to provide it if necessary to our public safety teams.
Okay. Does every single rec center have, what rec centers now have security in them? Do you know?
I don't believe that any of them have the sort of caliber of security system that we'd be looking for. Dima, I don't know if you have any more specifics than that.
So you're going to standardize the security in every single rec center? Okay.
That is correct, Chairwoman.
That answered the questions that I had. Auditor, Madam Auditor, you have a question?
Yes. Sabrina, can you say that everything has been purchased that was on the original ordinance for this master lease?
No, I cannot. So I'll provide an example of that. So down in the police section, for instance, there is a narcotics vehicle that was earmarked for $15,000. And that sum, as an example, is a direct result of an estimate that was provided for a used vehicle. The feedback from Elaine Richards, who handles the finances over in public safety, is that that vehicle was no longer available very quickly. And so to appropriately purchase what they are looking for, they needed more of an allocation. And there's been enough value engineering or value purchasing in other areas. She has asked, so you'll see anticipated expense, increased expense, $25,000. So the overall total for that would be $40,000. But it is that reason why that item hadn't been purchased yet. And the fleet manager is aware of that and is working on that presently.
Are you not getting the vehicle, and are you allocating that funds to another line item? For instance, in Pima, they had $39,000 allocated for an EOC computer upgrade, yet you spent $100,000 plus. Is that money absorbed and it will not be purchased and it needs to go forward? What's the plan?
I am looking for the specific line for the computer upgrades at Pima, but to be clear, we haven't eliminated any projects or items in the approved ordinance. So if the item is on here, we're looking to accomplish it. And so if there is an amount that is less than there, in some of these cases, some of the items have been procured together by the purchasing team to try to maximize how far the dollars can go, for example. That may be one such item that was bundled with another, but we haven't eliminated anything.
May I continue?
Please continue.
Can I ask what you're doing with the mattress shredder?
So the mattress shredder did go out to bid. The amount that came back for that is voluminous compared to the amount that is set aside here. Leo, I don't know if you have those numbers with you right now. I don't have them in front of me, but I know that it was multiple times what is allocated here. In addition to that, it does require an indoor area with fire suppression. So this goes beyond a master lease investment. And I want to pause there to provide for Director Parada to add anything extra.
Sure.
Madam Chair, before Leo answers, can I just jump in for a quick second, please?
Councilman Naducci, please.
I was going, and thank you, Gino, because that was going to be one of my questions. I guess we're going to hear in a little bit, hopefully from Leo, that what it's actually costing us to get rid of mattresses. And I think this is an investment we need to make. We're getting killed with mattresses, trying to get rid of them. The cost just went up again from Waste Management. Now even with the box springs, they want the springs out, and it's just getting more and more costly for the city. I think this is money that could be well spent moving forward. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Leo.
Continue, Mr.
Councilman-
Parada.
Yeah, so the bids came in last year and they were varied, but the lowest price, I think, was around 600,000, somewhere thereabouts. There were a couple in the 800 to $1 million price range. You have to understand that the mattress shredder is a complicated piece of equipment that does need to be housed inside a building. It needs ample room. We're going through the process of building a new building. You need very strong technical support. You're talking that these machines use blades that potentially could kill someone. So I would be very cautious before moving forward. The only mattress shredder that is in the state of Rhode Island that's operational is with Vinagro. It's not even with the state of Rhode Island, not Rhode Island Resource Recovery. In terms of the cost of mattresses, picking them up may be something that we have to look at, but the bulk of them are recycled. So when I say they're recycled, they're picked up and transported to the Mattress Recycling Council, which charges us nothing for them. The mattresses that we have to pay for are the ones that are wet, damaged beyond recognition, stained. To give you an idea, this last Saturday at the Mattress Depot, we collected from residents, transporting them to our facility here at DPW, 265 mattresses. Of those 265 mattresses, only 24 of them were not recoverable. So that means the other 230, 240 plus are all going to be recycled, no cost to the city under the current operational laws that have been put in place by the state of Rhode Island. The other 24, we have to pay, I think the going rate is somewhere around $2,000 per ton. Now, obviously, a mattress doesn't weigh a ton, but they do add up after a while. So that's where the big cost is. So shredding the mattress, shredding every single mattress that comes into the city doesn't make sense, particularly when most of them can be recovered and go away for nothing.
Are you all set, Councilman Narducci, or is your hand up again? I think he's all set. He's muted. Councilman Narducci, you're muted.
No, I'm sorry. I'm all set. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay, Madam Auditor.
Okay, in the original ordinance, there is one item for recreation and for cameras. I know that you're using miscellaneous, which is fine, but we just had an amendment to this that made that $774,000 for a computer software upgrade. How can it be for both?
Are you referring, Auditor, to the govern update?
I don't know. It was just passed out of committee a month ago, and it was $774,000 for a computer upgrade, various software. And over here you have FEMA equipment, vehicle replacement. You've already spent the 74. So
where's that?
Okay.
How are we paying for both of them?
If that is the govern upgrade, that would be from the 2018 master lease. So that was an item that was approved in that lease that was still outstanding. And my understanding from the finance team is that there was a 6-month extension placed on that so that the IT team could still take advantage of the item that was previously allocated for that. I believe that may be that item without seeing the copy myself.
Can you look into that and confirm, because that, I know the 2018 was for govern, but we just passed this master lease with the amendment for various software. Right.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to look into it and double back.
Yes, thank you. And may I? One more?
Yes, please.
Your bottom number, the 836,000, what exactly does that represent? Does that represent a balance of unspent funds, or does that represent the green highlighted areas?
Unspent funds. So to clarify, I did not include any of the green highlighted items in that figure because presumably those items would still be procured. I did not want to represent what was actually available because the intention is still to follow through on those items.
But it is counted in the 19.1 million. The ones in green.
So the 836,000 or so is the delta of that, but yes, so the items in green are included in the 19.1. Yes, that's correct.
So technically you could still get the mattress strata.
Technically, yes, provided that we have the appropriate facilities and area for it.
Okay. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members? Committee members? Council members? All set? All right. So you're going to get more information to the auditor on the items we discussed tonight.
Yes, Chairwoman.
You don't have any other questions?
Not until I see that paper.
Okay. All right. Very good. I think that concludes. We don't have anything else this evening. May I have a motion to adjourn?
In a motion.
Motion made by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Cool.